people in Norway, this is what they go through. There are times of the year that there are very few countries that, especially in the northern hemisphere, and especially in the north, that they go through a time when there's only darkness. There's only darkness and they don't see the sun. What would generally happen is that on the 25th of December, people who would worship the sun, they notice that the sun will come out on the 25th of December. And that is the day they dedicated to worshiping the sun. So what happened was that, imagine it is December, it is cold, it is winter, people are freezing to death, there is no sun, there's only darkness. And when they see the sun, they began to celebrate at the coming of the sun. Not only that, the Greeks, on this same day, the 25th of December, they would have a festival which was called the Bacchanalia, where they would celebrate and they would honor a god of theirs which was called Bacchus. And he was considered as the god of wine, sport, and play. The Romans would celebrate the same day called Saturnalia, which was the harvest god, and another god which they believe was born on this day, which was called Mithras. Mithras was also born on the 25th day of December, and he is considered as the ancient god of light, according to the Romans. And they would worship this, especially on the 25th of December. Some say that even on the 25th of December, the Greeks would not only celebrate Bacchanalia, but they would celebrate the birth of the son of their god Zeus, whose name was Hercules. Now I know recently there was, there's a lot of people, even Hollywood I think so just released a movie also called Hercules. But this was the concept, that Hercules was a son of Zeus, who is the most mightyful god in Greek mythology. He had a son on this day, and that is why they would celebrate this day. This is where 25th of December came from. Now, 25th of December was a day that was heavily celebrated. Now, you have to study Christian history in order to understand this too. According to some theories, when Christianity began to make its way towards Europe, and then you had later on a person by the name of Constantine, who was the very first Christian emperor of Rome. What happened was that these Christians were coming, and remember, Rome, or Europe in itself, was considered as a paganistic, all these countries in Europe were considered as paganistic, meaning that they had paganistic beliefs, paganistic rituals. When Christians came there, there's a theory that what happened is that these people, they were going and giving dawah, and there were many poor people there. What happened was that people would flock to the Colosseum, just like today people go to a football game. And in the Colosseum, there will be games, like gladiator games. And especially, if you study about gladiators, when they would fight, there was always the emperor who would witness this fight. And if there was two people in a duel, and two gladiators fighting with one another, it said that if one would defeat the other, he will look at the emperor. If the emperor did this, he would take his life. If he did this, he would not take his life. This is history in Rome. What would generally also happen is that the people who went against the orders of the king or the emperor, that you should not spread Christianity here, what they began to do is that in order to serve as for a lesson for everyone else, that you should not spread Christianity here, there is a theory, and once again I say a theory because this is only a belief, that these people were gathered in the Colosseum, they were put in the middle, and they had hyenas and lions that would feast on these people. Like literally, they would just tear them apart and eat them. And this was a message sent by the emperor of Rome to all those that do not spread your religion here. Now, people saw this happening over and over again, and they said, you know what, we need to create a compromise here. Let's create a compromise. And so you had Greek god and goddesses, you have Roman god and goddesses, which were all based on paganistic beliefs and rituals. But then Christianity comes into the picture over here and says, let's try to create a compromise here. So what they did was that slowly and gradually, the very first person who officiated Christmas and who said that that Christmas is the day Isa alayhi salam was born, a'udhu billah, is the day, the very first person who declared this was Constantine. Now, Constantine, when he did declare this, he faced a lot of opposition. He faced a lot of opposition. And so what happened was that Christmas failed to gain a universal recognition amongst the Christians. Slowly and gradually, but still the idea was there. People were telling other people that Christian scholars were telling their people, do not celebrate this day. It is a day that has nothing to do with our religion. But slowly and gradually, people began to come up with this idea, and it said that in the 1800s, so we're talking about for so many years, this was banned in so many countries, but then in the 1800s, it said that in 1834, to be exact, Queen Victoria, when she brought her German husband, his name was Prince Albert, he brought him in, and they celebrated Christmas in Britain for the very first time after a very long time, and slowly and gradually this idea and this concept was brought to America. So this, and then slowly and gradually, this has become a multi-million-dollar industry. Every single year, there are 40 million, only in the United States, 40 million Christmas trees are sold. 40 million Christmas trees are sold. And you can do the math. If you sell each one even $50 to $60, that in itself is a multi-million-dollar industry. Not only that, you factor in the presents, the gifts, people, department stores, retail stores are raising the prices because they know that people are going to come and purchase regardless. Then at the same time, this time becomes a burden for many people too. Why? Because all the debt they have accumulated during the Christmas time, it takes them approximately 6 months to 8 months, or for some people even 1 year, to take off that debt. So this is what people are going through. Not only that, I remember when I was a kid, I went to public school because when I was a kid, we did not even have Islamic schools. And I remember that in our time, they used to always show us this movie, which was called The Christmas Carol, which included a person by the name of Scrooge, and he was shown like, someone came to him and like showed him like what was his future if he continued to remain greedy and so forth. And so even this concept was brought into existence in the 1800s by a person by the name of Charles Dickens. Which we may be familiar about. So slowly and gradually Christmas became a time, and once again, it is not true that Isa alayhi salam was born on this day, but what they did was that they wanted to create a compromise between Christianity, paganistic beliefs and rituals, and Rome, so therefore they just they fused one into the other, and they came up with this idea. Now, where did the Christmas tree come from? Very interesting. Going back to what I said earlier, there was a time when it used to be dark, when it used to be very cold. During that time, there was one type of tree which was called the evergreen tree. And it was a type of tree that would not die and it would not be affected during this cold time. People began to believe that this tree is symbolic for power and life. What they would do is that they would cut these trees and they would bring it inside their houses and mount it inside their houses, and they would assume that this tree in itself is life and it will provide us life and it will bring us welfare. And not only that, but they would usually put a star on top of it as an amulet. An amulet is a tawiz. They would place this star on the top of this tree as an amulet to protect them from any kind of harm or any kind of evil. Now nowadays you see people doing this, but they don't understand the concept. So this is where the Christmas tree came from. Some other believe that, once again, the Christmas tree never came even to the 16th, 17th century. And even when I said earlier about Queen Victoria, she did establish a tree in her home when she brought her husband. Now, so this is where the Christmas tree comes from. Where does Santa Claus come from? Where does Santa Claus come from? This big, heavy-set man, always dressed in red, always joyful, ho, ho, ho. Where did he come from?
Germany.
And then the idea is that he comes, and sometimes it's hard for me to even imagine that a 350-pound man is going to come through this small chimney. Okay? It doesn't make sense to me. So, but this is the concept and the idea. And once again, I'm not a comparative religion major, but I can just tell you what I have heard, what I have read. If Isa alayhi salam was born in summer, then who was born in winter? Who was born in winter? Michelangelo was an artist, and he, I believe he was an artist. He was an artist? So what he did was that he depicted a heavy-set man. What he would do is that he was considered as Saint Nicholas. Saint Nicholas, this man, what he would do is that it was declared, once again, that people began to celebrate him, and what he would do is that he would go and he would spread joy amongst the people. There are some theories that say that he would go and bring happiness to other people. For our children today, there's only one type of happiness. The only way you can make a child happy today is either you give them candy or you give them toys. So that's the way they say that nowadays Santa Claus, he brings this. But nonetheless, what they would say is that I read even this to the extent that Santa Claus initially, what he had was a sled. And this sled was not led by reindeers or even Rudolph the reindeer, okay? It was led by snakes. Snakes with wings. Can you imagine that? I read this somewhere and I'm sharing this with you. These are just theories. And he would sit on his sled and he would go and he would try to spread the goodness. And later on, in fact, even according to some German, according to German history, some even consider Saint Nicholas to be a devil. Some even consider him to be even a devil. So wherever this man came from, the fact is that Santa Claus has absolutely no basis, even within the Bible. He has no basis in the Christian faith, and this idea of Santa Claus coming and bringing gifts and bringing happiness and joy is something that has just started very recently. Now, even when you look at, subhanAllah, once again, growing up in this society and going to public schools, I remember there was always this Christmas song that they used to always sing, is that Santa Claus hears you and he sees what you're doing, right? He sees what you're doing, he hears what you're doing, he hears what you're saying, and not only that, but he has a list of all the good kids and the naughty kids. And he's not going to bring gifts to the naughty kids, and he's going to bring gifts to the good kids. This in one way also, this is a manifestation of shirk in one way too. Because we know, based on Islamic theology, that there is only one that we believe who is the all-knower. And who is that? It is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's only one who has the capacity to listen to everyone at one time. And who is that? It is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's only one who can see everything at one time. And that is who? That is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why it is very important that we understand that this has nothing to do. This has nothing to do, this concept or Christmas has really nothing to do with Christian faith. And nowadays, if you even actually go to a Christian and talk to them and ask them, what is Christmas all about? You know what's it about? To them, it's only Santa Claus. It's about presents. As long as I give my presents, I give my wishes, I'm all good to go. So what we need to understand is that, and we should teach our children that there is no basis. Now, at the same time, there's a very important lesson here to be learned. These Christians, during the Roman Empire, they took the paganistic beliefs and they merged it with Christianity. Our deen teaches us, once again, lakum dinukum waliya din. You have a religion, we have a religion. Islam can never become diluted with other religions and other faiths. People nowadays, in order to please others, they try to dilute Islam. Islam cannot be diluted. In fact, I'll share this with you, when I was talking to a sister who actually lives here in the Irving area. She came one time to a school where I was, and she was giving a lecture about comparative religion. She has a master's in comparative religion, and I was talking to her about this, and she even shared with me the fact that even Jews, this is what they did. They diluted their religion. They took the message of Allah, they brought in other ideas and other beliefs, and they diluted it. And this is something that we have to learn, that in Islam, we cannot dilute our religion. Our religion, the way it has come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is picture perfect. It does not require any additions. It does not require any subtractions to make it pleasing to anyone else or to appease anyone else. Even amongst the Jews, even amongst the Jewish faith, they follow a lunar calendar just like we do. And as you all know, that in a lunar calendar, we lose approximately 10 to 12 days a year. We lose 10 to 12 days a year. So if you do the calculation that in 3 years, we lose approximately easily 30 days. According to the Judaic faith, after every 3 years, they added 1 month into their lunar calendar. After every 3 years, they add in 4 years? After 3 years on the 4th year, they add in one more month, which is 30 days. Why? Why do they do that? Have you ever noticed that Hanukkah is always in the same time range as Christmas? Have you noticed that? Why is that? According to some books and some beliefs, the Jews wanted to feel part of Christmas. They wanted to enjoy the day of celebrations and the day of festivities and did not want to feel left out, and that's why they say that after every 3rd year they add 1 more month. That brings Hanukkah again back close to Christmas. Just an idea and a theory. But we see that, subhanAllah, in our deen, we cannot make any additions, we can't make any subtractions. Now, I'm going to conclude on this. What should we do with our children? Our children come to us. They are growing up in a society. You can't hide away from that. You can't just make them, chain them at home and say, you can't go home, you can't go anywhere else outside. Because you will see a Christmas tree, you're going to see presents, you're going to see gifts, you're going to see the atmosphere filled with Christmas joy. You can't go outside. Our kids are part of this. And guess what? A day will come where the parents will not be here and they will be here. What do we do? When it comes, and this is something that if you remember, I talked about this in the khutbah of Eid also. We should, as Muslims, when the time of Ramadan comes, that is the most important time for us. We need to create an atmosphere within our home. I remember Sheikh Sulaiman, he did this, which is a very great idea, and a lot of people, they start following this also, is that he had 30 balloons. He had 30 balloons, he blew air into 30 balloons, and he would tell his daughter every single day, one day would go by, he was saying, pop one balloon. And like this, she was expecting, and she was in anticipation and waiting for the day of Eid. We need to create an atmosphere within our home that we can make our kids feel that, wow, what a great month Ramadan is. And make them wait for Eid, that you should create an atmosphere such that they say that I can't wait for Eid. Nowadays in Eid, I remember there was a youngster, very funny, he shared with me, that on the day of Eid, what do? He goes, we go to each other's home and we sit there like it's a janazah. We all sit there quietly. One guy would bring chai and tea and we just sit there. And he told me, it was very funny for me, and he said that we just sit there as youth and the kids, we don't do nothing. Parents, in order to take this Christmas out of the heart, you have to replace it with something else. The day of Eid is the day of festival for us Muslims. On that day, buy your children gifts. Buy your children gifts. Present them gifts. I know the fathers are going to come and be like, why did you say that? Okay? I already have so many debts. But buy your children gifts. It doesn't have to be now, children. Please do have mercy on your parents. Don't say, I want an iPad 1 year, the next year I want a Surface Pro 3, then 1 year I want this, I want that. Don't put a lot of pressure on your parents. But when the time of Ramadan comes, create an atmosphere where our kids, they love it. Where our kids are waiting for Eid. When the 10 days of the Hijjah come by, explain to our kids, what is the Hijjah all about? We're going to go to the farm and we're going to slaughter. We're going to exchange gifts. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. We need, because once again, if we don't replace it with something else, if I don't do anything else for my kids, then guess what? Our kids are going to be impressed by this. So we should keep this in mind. We have 2 days of festivities. The day of Eid al-Fitr and the day of Eid al-Adha. And subhanAllah, these are days that are great. These are days that the Prophet ﷺ, he has talked about. these are days that are recognized by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then why not make this a day of celebration? Why not make this a day where our kids, they can, our kids should be saying that I cannot wait for the day of Eid al-Fitr. When our kids go to school, especially when they go to public school, now after winter break, I remember when I was a kid, I used to come home and I used to tell my mom that I want a gift. And she would say, "Abichan, go. Get out of here." And then what would happen is that I would go to school after, and once again, public school, and every kid is like, he's like, "Oh, I got this for Christmas, I got this for Christmas, and I got this." And my teacher was like, "Nadim, what did you get?" And I was like, I didn't have an answer. Because we would not get anything. And so our kids, what they should be saying is, when their Christian friends say to them that I got this for Christmas and I got this for Christmas, they should say, "You know what? You only have one day when you get gifts. In my religion, there are 2 days when I get gifts. There are 2 days. You have one out of 2. So beat that." We should, honestly, without any joke, the parents should create an atmosphere within their home. Make Eid, a joyous occasion. Eid al-Adha, a joyous occasion. And that is the way our kids will have love for Allah. They will have love for the Prophet ﷺ, and they will be proud to call themselves. Muslims. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us the ability to act on what has been said and heard. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I first pray that, and one thing that in these times, Brother Ustadh Baajour, he mentioned it very clearly that we should not be saying Merry Christmas to anyone. We should not mention anything that has any kind of Christian slogan attached to it. We should just, if we meet our neighbor, once again, we have to build cohesion. We meet a neighbor, just say, you can have a blessed day or whatever you want, but try to stay away from Merry Christmas. Any of these kind of phrases. And I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that all these people who are celebrating this day, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them hidayah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them the true understanding. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring them to the light of Islam, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our children. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our identity. Anyone who's going through an identity crisis, or anyone who feels inferior, or who feels not confident that they are Muslims, I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah establishes the true essence of Islam within their heart, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make them proud that they are considered as Muslims. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanallah. Yes, questions?
The question at work, your colleagues say Merry Christmas to you, they don't want to pray, so can you say back to them
it's this. Okay, say the question one more time so I can say.
So to your colleagues, if they greet you with, Merry Christmas,
So-
Christmas gift, what you say in terms of that?
So the question is that if someone says Merry Christmas to you, or they give you a gift, what are you supposed to say back to them? So I would say that, once again, try to stay away from Merry Christmas completely. Some, Happy Holidays is, I would consider it as makruh tahrim, okay? It's really on the borderline. Try to use something else, because even when you say holidays, you may be acknowledging the fact that this is considered as a day of a holiday. So try to use something like, I can't think of something now, but or God bless you, or something that's not associated, something that's very neutral, I would say. If you accept a gift, once again, I would say that, first of all, you have to see what they give. People, a lot of times, they give wine and they give different things. Of course, we can't take that, but I would say that if they give you a gift, see what it is. If it's money, subhanAllah, this is just my personal opinion. I would say that if they're giving you money on Christmas Day, just try to give it in some charitable organization or something, non-Muslim charitable organization, but try to stay away from taking any type of gifts or anything of that type. Yes.
According to the people, Christian people, what I understand is Maryam went inside the cave to deliver Hazrat Isa alayhi salam. and the shepherd was sitting outside with the sheep and all that, outside, around with their flocks and the sheep. If the shepherd was sitting outside at the time of birth of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, then how come Christmas is in December? Over there is very cold, much colder than
Yeah. And so the brother is mentioning once again that Isa alayhi salam, according to the theories, that Isa alayhi salam, when he was born, he was in a cave and the shepherds were outside. So we talked about this, that this is why we say that Isa alayhi salam was not born in December or in winter, he was born in summer. Yes, brother.
Both of you, you talked about instilling the love of Ramadan in our children, but we want some practical advice. Ramadan may or may not coincide with Christmas, which follows the solar calendar. So we are talking about this time of year, December, when the schools are closed and the festivities of the Christian festivities are all around us, the decorations, the buying and selling, and all the hoopla that surrounds Christmas. What kind of programs should we create for our children when they are off out of school, so that they can be, busied with something that is one, not from the Shia traditions, and also something that is builds their Islamic personality.
So the question is that the Ramadan, the Hijjah, these sacred times of the year do not come at the same time, or they do not coincide with the time of Christmas. And so during the time of Christmas, especially when our kids are off for 2 weeks, then what can we do in order to prevent them from attending festivities, or how can we divert their mind at this time of the year? Because once again, there is no shying away from the fact that they are watching all this. So the best thing that we can do is that I will give to Ustadh Baajour on this also, and that I think education is very important, holding kind of different programs at the Masjid. And also I would say that, a lot of parents, they put a lot of pressures sometimes on the Masjid, that the Masjid has to create some programs. The Masjid can only create and establish a certain amount of programs. I strongly urge parents to think about this every single year. Brainstorm with your spouse, with your wife, that what can we do in the upcoming days that are coming up? What can we do at home? What can we do outside? Try to engage them in something else so that their mind will not be diverted in that direction. This is just my opinion.
So with the left, the concept of gifts. Rasulullah accepted a gift from a non-Muslim. Gifts usually are giving gifts and receiving gifts is something beautiful. Rasulullah said, tahadu. When you give gifts, it creates love. But giving gifts to the non-Muslims on their holidays is definitely prohibited, without any doubt. Accepting gifts from them, many ulama said that it's okay. It's okay. Some ulama said no. Some ulama said it's okay because your intention, this is very important, your intention is to soften their hearts to our deen. This is the main reason why you accept the gifts. And when you want to give a gift back, you give a gift at your Eid, at our Eid, not at their holidays. Now with respect to our dear brother's question, this is where the Masjid come in effect and in action. This is an extremely important question that the brother raised, that when our kids are off, the Masjid is already 2 months in advance, have had plans every single day. And I mean it, every single day there's something in the Masjid. Every day. It's only 10 days of the year. They are bombarded outside with all the haram issues. They are children, ya akhi. They are children. Where were we when they are at their age? We were in our countries enjoying everything. We're not seeing all this haram. So the Masjid built an extremely important role in activities, sports, education, stuff like that today is very essential, great, extremely important. This is where the masjid comes. And inshallah ta'ala, hopefully by next year, inshallah ta'ala, me and Imam Nadim will definitely have something for the children during this period. Every single day we'll have some activity, even if it was 1 hour activity. Definitely we have to keep them and make them even look forward. Because at Christmas time, our masjid is doing great activities. Not only the non-Muslims, because they go to the school. Like our brother said, what did you get, what happened? Everybody's telling about what happened, and our children are looking around, and subhanAllah. So inshallah ta'ala, we will definitely have to do something in our masajid and our homes, and that will make the people, make our children do not feel strangers in the community.
Yes.
No.
What if someone leaves gifts and they say it's from Santa?
She said?
Leave gifts where?
By your door.
So the young girl is asking that what if, I don't know if I have an answer for this. What if someone leaves gifts next to your door and they said it's from Santa? Well, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once again, return to sender. Once again, Ustadh Baajour mentioned also that accepting gifts from non-Muslims on the day of Christmas, some said is, some scholars have agreed to this. Some say that it is not okay. So I would try to, I'll try to find out who actually gave the gifts, and I mean, there's no straight and clear, there's no straightforward answer to this, honestly. But try to see who gave it, try to appreciate them for it. And since some ulama have permitted, then just take the gift, and then on your day of Eid, on your day of festival, then you give them a gift also. Exchange the gifts, because this is very important. Make sure that it's not a one-way street where you keep on accepting and you don't give anything. So that's very important.
Here.
Okay, go ahead.
What about Rudolph?
What about Rudolph? Where did Rudolph come from?